Welcome to the Wing Life Podcast, where we talk about wing foiling and the lifestyles of those who enjoy this great sport.
It'd be nice to catch up. I haven't talked to you since I think we did our 8th episode with you, I think, or 7th or something.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been about a year or so, I think.
Been a year. Lots of stuff has changed. How's life been on Maui? What's new with you?
Really good, man. We're just doing a lot of downwinding. Like I say, we're going into our race season here. So we just had the Voyager race on Oahu. And then coming up in about 10 days is the Paddle Amoa race from Maliko down to Kanoha. And then the weekend after that is the Maui to Molokai and Molokai to Oahu races. So a lot going on. It's a big month. And then after that, it's pretty much just kind of, enjoying the last bits of summer and getting ready for the winter.
Oh, sick. Okay. So these races, for those who might not know as much about them, can we do a quick run through?
Yeah. So the Voyager race was put on by Wet Feet Hawaii. That's Jeff Chang and Voyager Downwinding. It's like Simeon in the Oahu group. It's kind of just like this event to get everyone from, around the world, but mostly in Hawaii together and send some downwind runs together. We went from ADs to Kaimanas, so about 13 miles. But it was really cool because there was kind of 3 different races that went on at the same time. There was the long course downwind subfoil. So that was from ADs to Kaimanas. And then there was one from China Walls to Kaimanas as a different race. And then they ran a wing event as well. So it's really cool to have just a lot of different disciplines, a lot of different rider skill levels to get everyone to go send together. That's always really fun to get a good crowd. And then coming up July 14th is Paddle Amoa. So that's a race that it benefits Camp Amoa, which is like a special needs camp here in Maui. It's a really great fundraiser, just a really good cause to race for. And it's a part of the Triple Crown this year. So there's like some real stakes and some, Amoa actually it counts for something. So it's really cool to see that event kind of gain prestige and get a little more serious in a sense. That one's from Maliko Gulch down to Kanoha, kind of where the kiteboarders ride. And that's a super fun event. There will be, I don't even know, probably like 250 people in the water. And it's pretty much every vessel that can do a downwind run is invited to participate. They have subfoil, wing foil, OC1, OC2. I think there might even be some 6-man canoe teams. Some kiteboarders have come out, they'll launch at lanes and go down. There's wingers. It's just this massive downwinding event that everyone goes. And in the past, it's always been kind of a friendly race. You want to beat your buddies, but it didn't have a ton of meat to winning. It's kind of all right, good for you. And everyone just hangs out at the bottom. Now being a part of the Triple Crown and the point scoring between Amoa, M to M, and M to O, it just adds another level of competition to the event that it hasn't had in prior years. So it's really cool to see that event kind of take off a little bit or get a little more prestige, I guess is a way to put it. And then the weekend after that is the Channel Crossing doubleheader, essentially. So M to M is running on Friday. That's Maui to Molokai. So from DT Fleming's to Kotokakai, the harbor down there. And that's roughly 27 to 30 miles. That's going to be on Friday. Saturday is going to be the rest day. And then Sunday is M to O, which is going to go from Molokai all the way down to Kaimanas, basically. So it'll be a Channel Crossing plus an HK run on Oahu, all stacked together. And I think that's going to come out 35 miles, more or less. I might be wrong on that. I know it's further than the M to M race, but that's going to be a grind.
It's the same people running, is it the same people running both?
As far as the event organizers?
No, competing in both.
Yeah, a lot of the field. So it's, the Triple Crown races. So a lot of people are going to be racing all 3. So it's not only you have to perform on the day of where you have, a week of rest or whatever before. For M to O, for Triple Crown, it's going to be, you just ran M to M, you just pushed for 30 miles, you have one rest day, and now you got to get out and go push, for another 40 miles, 35 miles, and have race pace on both of these races with only one day of rest between them. So it's a really cool endurance. It's not just one day, it's not just one run. You got to really string together a whole weekend.
Wow. Okay. And what's your training regimen look like for something like that?
A lot of cardio, a lot of downwind runs, kind of just how you would train for really any endurance type sport. do a lot of time on the bike, try to run as much as I can, just work on that stamina. And then in the water, just sending downwind runs, trying to foil efficiently and be able to, push as long as you can, but then maximize your recovery times when you need it. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, really just trying to keep, your body, your mind in shape, because it's also a mental game, being out there for, a couple hours, being able to stay focused the whole time and, run your race and not worry about the people around you. And if you make a mistake, like how do you recover from it? So just trying to have that mental tenacity that you need, is also just as important as keeping your body physically ready to go.
Yeah, I don't doubt. I guess it's just a mental grind, eh?
Yeah, it's mental, and then there's, it's absolutely a physical grind. Especially Molokai to Oahu, that channel is notoriously fickle. A lot of current. There can be big waves. They can be going the wrong direction. Light wind. So it's a very intense physical endeavor as much as it is mental.
Okay. So for that crossing, could you estimate how long you are up on foil? Or is a
The
lot of
whole
the time
time.
you're on foil the whole time? You're like, you're not touched down the whole time and having to do a lot of kind of stuff.
That's the plan. Stay on foil the whole time
If
if everything goes to plan. Yeah. The more time on foil, the better. So the goal is to, be on foil the entire time from start to finish.
Okay. All right. And how long is this one?
Molokai to Oahu, I think, is going to be like 35 to 40 miles. I don't know exact start and finish points, but I think it's going to be roughly in that range.
And then hours to complete?
Depends how fast you go.
Okay.
I think some of the faster guys, probably 2 hours, maybe, but
Oh, shit.
it's kind of one of those, the conditions can be so variable that like your time delta could be pretty massive. But man, there's some really fast riders, guys that are pushing into 20-mile-an-hour averages for long runs when the bumps are good. So, I think that it's not out of the question to see, low 2 hours for some of these top finishers.
Okay. Now, because I talked to you last year, how obviously the gear's progressed a lot, right? What have you seen? Yeah, what have you seen? Let's geek out a bit on that stuff. Like, what have you seen that's made this easier and more fun or more challenging?
So I think there's kind of two parallel developments that have happened, and they've kind of pushed each other. One is with the board development, and the other is with the foil development. For what we're seeing with downwind racing in particular, aspect ratio seems to be king. People are really pushing the limits with aspect ratio. A year ago, 2 years ago, like 10 was super high. Now, if you show up with a 10 aspect ratio foil, you'll probably be in the bottom of the field for as far as aspect ratio goes. There's a lot of production designs that are running 13 aspect ratio, and there's some custom like one-off racing foils that are pushing 15 plus AR. So it's really interesting to see what these guys are building, what some of these prototypes and custom designs are coming up as for trying to gain efficiency, trying to make the foils carry their speed as long as possible. So whatever energy you do put into the foil and build, you maintain it. As far as what's best, I don't know. We'll see how this race season shakes out, but definitely aspect ratio is king. Running smaller sizes, 600, 700. Right now, an 800 race foil is pretty big. So, the foil size have gotten really small. And one of the things that, especially for me, has allowed that to happen is the development of the boards. So running these really long, really narrow boards that have a really good paddle efficiency has been really important because it makes it that much easier to get up on foil. So yeah, you lose some of the surfability, if you're running a 9-foot board, but it makes it, at least in my opinion, dramatically easier to paddle that small foil up. You just have to work or put in less work to get the foil to engage and take off. And then if the conditions are light, if it's glassy or the bumps aren't very big, just having that extra water line lets you paddle the board faster, so then you can flat water easier or get to your takeoff speed a little better. So it's kind of this, they both have run parallel, but the general direction that we're seeing out here in Hawaii especially is longer, narrower boards on smaller, higher aspect foils. And that seems to be kind of the leading recipe for race performance and success.
Okay. All right. So then you're probably seeing are you seeing some non-production stuff like custom boards, custom foils and stuff that are coming out of just backyards, or are you seeing mainly the big guys kind of producing the gear that people are riding?
A lot of what we're seeing is the big name manufacturers doing like one-off, or building a handful of prototype race foils, giving it to their race team. And then it seems like they're taking a lot of what they're learning from this race R&D, how to push the limit of this niche 0.1% sport as far as like mass appeal. How do you squeeze all your performance out of that, and then applying that to more user-friendly and production designs. So I think that a lot of what we saw last year with the, like, for example, the Armstrong prototypes, that turned into the DWP production series. So, there was, at that point in time, running these like crazy camber wings, like nobody was doing it. It was this kind of crazy one-off idea. It performed well, and then it trickled down into the production product. So, I think there is benefit to putting time and investment into these race wings and developing for this niche sport, because you learn a lot about trying to perform at a really high level and make these foils operate at the top % of their operating range. And you can kind of use some of those things and, distill it down into a design that's going to have a lot of mass appeal and is going to capture what, most people want to ride.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Huh. So what is your setup right now that you're riding?
So I'm running a custom KT 9.4 downwind board. It's 9.4 by 17. Really everything was designed to paddle fast, be easy to get up, nice and stable in the channel to deal with like the crossing and turbulent water. So everything for that was built around downwind performance. It's not like a surfer, it's long, it's narrow. The turns are very drawn out. But for downwinding, that's almost an advantage, because especially in the channels, we're not ripping super short, tight bumps. It's longer bumps. They're very big. They're very fast. So kind of, I think, slowing down a little bit of that actually helps, because it kind of helps you make these course adjustments and course corrections while still having enough ability to maneuver and kind of deal with tight spots if you need. So it's this really nice balance in the board that we have. And then right now I'm racing a Progression 125 from Unifoil. I've done my own finishing stuff on that. I've sanded the foil up, kind of modified a few things on it. And then I have a custom race tail that I'm running that's kind of really just designed to help that foil work in a higher speed category than with like a surf tail. Just running really skinny, really high aspect tails. They're designed to go fast. Basically, kind of how I describe it, the faster you ride it, the better it works. And that's kind of what, with a lot of these race foils, kind of what I'm looking for. Everything is pros and cons, right? If you have a foil that works really well in fast sections, a lot of times you'll struggle in slower speed areas. And that's kind of where building the aspect ratio part comes out. So if you have these really high aspect foils that are super efficient and they carry that glide and speed for a long ways, then you can build your speed in a high speed section. And then if you hit a point that gets kind of glassy or the bumps fall off, you have the efficiency and the aspect ratio to pump and carry you either to the finish line, which, usually is where the bad spot is, or until you find another set of bumps.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And what kind of stuff are you bringing safety equipment wise on that race? You bring water, food, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I've been wearing a Vycobi PFD. That's been a great addition. Just, it's nice to have something that floats you out there, because things happen, when you're going 25 mile an hour down a wave and you fall, you whack your head on the board, like you can get the wind knocked out of you, or you can, hurt yourself. So having flotation has been, it's something new to me this year. I never ran with a PFD or anything before. I started using it this year and I really like it. It's also added utility. So I have my water bag attached to the back. I carry 2 liters of water, and then having a chest pocket that has, my tool, a snack. I have my phone. I can fit a VFD in there, as well as a VHF radio, as well as a e-curb. So, and then also carry a tourniquet on there as well. That's something I just added on in the last couple weeks. These race foils, especially, they're so sharp. They're like knives. And if you fall the wrong way, you catch it, you could get a serious cut. So just having some sort of trauma management that I carry, I don't know. It's kind of one of those, you hope you never have to use it. You probably will never have to use it, but if you need to, you're going to be really glad you have it. So really just building out multiple layers of safety. Obviously my cell phone is my first go-to choice. Like, it's the easiest to use, easiest to communicate with. My cell phone is number one. If that doesn't work, having a VHF radio where you can reach out to boats or whoever, race control on the race day, that's really important. And then if all else fails, none of my other safety systems are working and I need someone to come get me, I'm just out to sea, broken paddle, something happens, I have an EPIRB, and that'll call the Coast Guard to come get you, and hopefully they find you. So really, it's not about just one single thing. It's about building layers of safety, knowing how to use your safety equipment. What's your safety plan? When do you deploy what device at what threshold? And those are all things that are just really important to think about and consider. Practice with your equipment, know how to use it. Because when you're out in the middle of a channel, like, you might think it's okay, it's 30 miles, it's not that far, but that's an absolute needle in a haystack on a best chance scenario. Just finding someone out in that channel is almost impossible. We did a practice crossing with a boat. This was a 30-foot fishing boat, with outriggers and everything. This thing was big. I lost the boat in minutes. Like, I could not find the boat. We were moving between the waves. The waves are so big out there that unless both me and the boat were cresting a wave at the same time, that boat was invisible.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this, even though that boat from waterline to the top was probably 15 feet, 10 feet, I was losing the boat. There was just no chance of finding it. So, you have to be self-sufficient out there. You have to be able to have the physical stamina and conditioning to get yourself to safety, and know how to use your safety equipment properly if something goes wrong.
Okay, so cell phone's pretty straightforward. VHF radio is pretty straightforward. What's brand or kind of EPIRB? Is that kind of like a skiing beacon that flips, or how does that thing work?
Yeah, so it's this little device, it's probably 3 inches tall, 1.5 inches wide, and I just Velcro it to the straps on my PFD, so it sits kind of on my rib cage, and really it just sits stagnant, stationary, disabled for 99.99% of the time. If you need it, it just has an antenna that you pop open and you push a button, and it sends a position beacon. I believe it uses GPS, but I'm not sure the exact communication protocol it uses. That pings, I believe it goes to NOAA in Florida or something like that. And you have to register it to you. So my beacon, my serial number is registered to me. It has my contacts list of who I call or who they call if this beacon goes off. And then if that contacts list says, yeah, go find him, he's out there, then they dispatch the local Coast Guard. I believe that's a sequence of operations. It might be, a little different, but basically I know that they're going to call around and say, hey, is this a valid beacon? Is this actually in distress and going off? And then they'll send someone to come find you. And hopefully that beacon has the accuracy where they can come get you. Everyone carries them on big fishing boats. I carry one on my jet ski, when we're out tow surfing and stuff. Like, I believe they work really well. I personally have never actually used my beacon or EPIRB. I test it. You do your annual update on your registration, but I've never actually deployed it. And hopefully I never have to actually find out how it works.
Is there any way to test it where you put it in test mode and you can have the beacon send a signal on your own laptop or something, and then you can cross-reference? Yeah,
so there is a test button on there, and you pop it, and then basically the beacon just has visual lights, like little LEDs that indicate it's communicating, it's talking. Nobody actually calls you. Like, I don't get any feedback that anyone saw the test, but at least the beacon says that it's established a connection, and as it sees the satellite that's going to tell someone to come find me. So that's kind of the testing that I've done on it. Hopefully, if I do need it, it actually does communicate and someone actually does come find you. But that's also kind of backed up by my other layers of safety. At least if I pop it and someone comes find me, we'll get within proximity where my VHF will communicate, or I'll drift into a cell tower where I can get cell phone service. So that's kind of why I'm not just relying on one single piece of equipment. And at the end of the day, I'm relying on myself. If something goes wrong, like, I know that I'll be able to swim to some landmass somewhere and get back to where I need to be. It might take me 12 hours. I might be really dehydrated and super tired and hungry, but I know I have the confidence that in myself and my conditioning and my fitness that I will make it somewhere. I'm not going to just sit out there and drift aimlessly. Okay. No, because I was just curious for these other spots when people are getting more and more and more into downwinding.
to what safety gear made the most sense. Like, would an Apple Watch or any of that stuff even be of any value with the GPS component in there? Have you done any research on those newest watches, Garmin's, all that kind of thing?
I really haven't. On my daily run, when we go from Maliko to the harbor, I just carry a cell phone and then I have my Apple Watch.
Okay.
Because I know on that run, I'm going to have cell service the entire time. So if something happens, we're only a few miles offshore as well. So like, again, I'm not worried about, even if all my devices died and nothing worked, I know I'm going to be able to swim in. But, I always have my phone. So then that way, if something happens, I can at least communicate with my group. I can share my location. I know I can tell someone that, hey, I'm going to be out here for a while. So like, for example, at the beginning of the season, I broke a paddle on like probably one of the biggest days that we've had this year on the North Shore. We had super strong wind. We had a big swell. There was only like 3 or 4 of us that went. It was just buildings of water moving across in the ocean out there. It was absolutely insane. I ended up breaking my paddle like a couple miles offshore and roughly 4 miles from the finish line. So I was way outside all the outer reefs in this deep blue water with a broken paddle. So it's kind of like my options were, well, first thing, I pulled out my phone, I texted my group. I was like, hey, broken paddle, I'm going to be late. I shared my location, and then I just locked my phone, stuffed it in my chest pouch, and just was like, all right, we're on our own out here. No one's coming to get me. So kind of just sat out there and looked at what was happening, what was my situation. And my options were either paddle all the way down to the harbor or paddle straight in, but have to deal with these just giant breaking waves. So I decided that paddling through big waves on a downwind foil setup was not going to be a super fun option, even though it was shorter. I felt that I had more risk of getting hit by the foil, getting dragged across the reef, getting personal injury. So at that point, I was like, all right, well, we have about a 4-mile paddle, so let's just grind it out. And, I was focusing on managing my stamina, not getting dehydrated, not cramping, not fatiguing. I wasn't paddling super hard, just taking a nice, smooth, consistent cadence to get myself into the harbor. And it took a couple hours, but I made it in, and at least everyone in my group knew I was going to be late. They knew to expect me in a few hours. I shared my location so they could see roughly where I was if something was to happen. And you just kind of rely on yourself to get yourself in. I could have called emergency services. I could have called, 911, and they probably would have sent a lifeguard out to come get me. But I wasn't in a situation where I needed that. Like, yeah, it'd be nice to have a jet ski to come get you, like, of course.
No
but
kidding.
It was on a day that, like, it would have put the responders at risk. Yeah, that's what they trained for. But I wasn't in a situation where I needed it. I needed someone to come get me. So I felt totally comfortable and fine just swimming the 4 miles in. And that's just like a reality that you have to be prepared to deal with, especially if you're downwind foiling and you're going far offshore, that, it's sometimes these things happen and you just need to be able to deal with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess it does prepare you for your races to go through a few of those incidents as well, right?
Absolutely. I think everyone that's done downwinding, especially downwind sup foiling or prone foiling, everyone has a story. There's nobody that does this sport that doesn't have a story. It's just how things work. It's the nature of the beast. Rather, it's when they were learning, they become proficient, they broke a paddle, something happened. Everyone has a story about when they were 20 miles offshore and 50 knots of wind, they had to swim uphill to the finish. Like, everyone has a story like that. It's just a reality of the sport, and it's part of why maintaining your physical conditioning is super important, and just having, your layers of safety to help keep yourself calm, keep yourself protected, and just mitigate risks. Everything we do in the water, whether it's windsurfing, wing foiling, kiteboarding, sup foiling, tow surfing, there's all levels of risk, right? Nothing is inherently risk-free. So it's just how you manage that risk and how you prepare yourself to deal with those things. That's essential.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So how long have you been training then, years wise, to get to this point of fitness? I
mean, I started downwind foiling 2 years ago. So this is my 3rd season.
All right. So not
still like super new to the game. I tried and quit probably 3 different times. Like in like 2018, 2019, people were just kind of starting to dabble with it. I think that's when like Kai put out his video on that big 14-foot board going downwind, which was like, hindsight, that was like kind of like, well, there's the answer right there. But nobody had that really dialed yet. Maybe Dave Palma did, but I certainly didn't. So, I was like, I built this stand-up board. It was like 25 wide, like 5'10". And at that point in the time, that was long and skinny. And I tried it and I was like, this sucks. I'm never going to get this figured out. Like I quit,
Yeah.
tried again, like, I don't know, 6 months later when I had waves and I still couldn't do it. I was like, this sucks. I quit. And then, 3 years ago, I got my first Barracuda and that like unlocked it for me. That let me get moving in the big bumps out in the middle of the ocean. And that was a game changer. That's when I really started putting time and effort into downwind foiling. And at that point, I wasn't really doing any dry land training because I was more just learning the sport. And when you're learning downwind foiling, that is your training. Like you're holding a 180 heart rate for 45 minutes trying to go, 6 miles. Like it's just a grueling physical endeavor. At least for me, it was. I don't know. I just, it was absolutely obliterating. Like it broke down your ego, your mind, your body. Just there, it was the absolute neutralizer for an ocean sport. And that was super fun to me. Like I just really enjoyed because I was getting these nuggets of incremental success. It was like, okay, I finally paddled the board up. And then it was like, oh, I paddled up and I went 50 feet on foil. And then it was like, oh, I connected 3 bumps. So you just keep gaining success. And it was just absolutely addicting. Like we were going every day. We just couldn't get enough of it. And then, winter comes around and you kind of stop. And then last year, I like first started putting in dry land effort, so that's when I started to bike. I started like doing weight training, trying to build my cardio because at the same time, I was also setting the goal of riding smaller foils. So I needed to develop more physical strength, more physical stamina, better technique so that I could power those foils. I could get the board moving through the water. And you kind of take a couple steps back then as well, where you're not riding as efficiently. You haven't developed the technique to ride that small foil where it is efficient. So you're working just as hard. So you're building your cardio again. And then this year, I really just had, the goals of racing and trying to perform in races. And that's where I took my training a lot more seriously, like doing heart rate training on the bike, trying to live in that zone 3, touch into zone 5, back down to zone 3 cardio stuff, trying to replicate the downwind cardio effects, where you're really pushing that heart rate high and then trying to bring it down quickly and then accelerate it again and try to maintain those levels of heart rate, get used to the lactic acid buildup in your body. And also, I'm not getting any younger. So having to work on my recovery, that's been a huge part. Like, especially this last year, I've put more effort into learning about my body's recovery than I think anything else. And that's been a huge game changer. I actually stretch now. Like I never used to stretch ever. Now I stretch every day and it's been big. I love the ice bath. I'm not an exercise scientist and people go, oh, it's good for you. It's bad for you. I don't know. All I know is that for me personally, I feel a difference when I use my ice bath versus when I don't. If I push super hard, I do a workout in the morning, I go downwind. If I ice bath after that, the next day, I feel like I'm dang near 100%. Like my recovery just feels like it's so compressed. Where if I don't, then that next day, I feel like maybe I'm at 70%. And then if I don't again, then the third day, maybe I'm at 50%. Like I feel the decline where when I do use the ice bath and the cold therapy, the foam roller, the stretching, when I do all that, I feel like it just lets me go, 100%, 100%, 100% day after day. Now, whether that's better or worse, I don't know, but I feel better. I feel less strain on my body. And, at this point, I feel like that's a gain in itself. But I don't know. I don't really work regularly with a trainer or an exercise scientist. Like I'm kind of just, I'm going off of like YouTube and what do I feel personally and what makes me feel as good as possible. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Okay. All right. And have you looked at like anti-inflammatory, different kinds of foods? Have you switched up your eating patterns at all to help with this?
Not really. I still rock a solid diet of like chicken nuggets and Uncrustables. No, we do eat pretty good. Yeah, I do. It's kind of the joke with our downwind gang because I always grab these frozen Uncrustable sandwiches out of my freezer and put them in my car because after we do a downwind run, I'm like so hungry. And if we're gonna do like 2 runs or 3 runs, I have to eat. Like I can't do 2 runs without eating. So it's kind of this joke that I only only eat Uncrustables because that's all anyone actually sees me eat. Because after a run, I'm always down at the harbor. As soon as I get in, I go to my truck and grab a snack. And, so it's just that's about more having a quick grab and go food. We do eat pretty well at home, having like proteins for breakfast. And I try to like, have a sandwich or something with lunch and dinner, having like just balanced meals. I don't go too crazy into it though. It's kind of just what do we have in the house? What do we want to prepare? And what are we eating today is more the question.
Okay. I guess the food over there is fairly, like, you're more likely to eat clean, relatively clean.
I think so. I mean, I still prefer McDonald's, I still go get some chicken nuggets and fries. Like, I'm not too crazy in like the health food thing. I definitely think that as far as my training goes, like my diet is the least developed part of my training system. And like, I know that's not awesome. Like, I could probably perform better if I ate super clean and all this, but I don't know, man. I like chicken nuggets. I like French fries. It is what it is.
That's okay. That's all right. What else has been going on this year with you? Any other big events in life, or how's everything been going?
Nothing too crazy. It's all been good, I guess at the beginning of this year, in January, I broke my ankle toe surfing. So that really sucked. That kind of took out the end of my winter. Really, my winter was cut short. And of course, like right when I broke my ankle, then we started getting just awesome waves for like a month. So I got to sit and watch everyone just get totally surfed out while I'm, on the sideline in a boot and then doing physical therapy. But that was kind of it. So all in, like, that's a pretty mellow year. I'm good with that. Obviously it'd be better if that didn't happen, but it's life. It's all we can do. So yeah, really just trying to been getting myself in shape for downwinding, try to keep my physical stamina up. And then now, like I see the end of the light for racing. So now I'm really getting in the mindset for the winter again, just getting prepared for big waves and toe foiling, winging, surfing, just all those winter sports. I'm just trying to get ready for those. Looking at what gear we have coming out with unifoil. There's some new things that are in the pipeline that I'm really excited about for the winter. Some stuff that I think is going to be really good in the waves. Should be fun for towing. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Kind of waiting on the production stuff to launch. A couple new prototypes are, in the works. So there's things coming that I'm really stoked about. And kind of just once the races are done, then it's like, well, what do we do? We got a few months to burn until the waves start getting here. Some of us have talked about trying to learn prone downwinding, like take our stand-up boards out with hand paddles and try to prone. So
yeah,
that might be cool. I think that's a really untapped downwind potential. There's only a handful of guys around the world that are really doing that. So it's really hard. It looks incredibly difficult and gnarly, and I think that's something that's going to be a fun learning endeavor. But still not there yet, one step at a time. So probably like through August will be when we try to go grind that out and see how it goes. Who knows? I might give up and quit that too, but we'll see.
Because that would be a lot, like obviously you're generating a lot less power and you almost have to just get up on foil as you're starting to ride down swell in essence, right? Like how else are you going to get, you're not going to be able to get that thing up on flattish or on a shoulder or anything like that.
I really don't know. And that's kind of what makes me excited to try it, because I don't know. Like, I like that process of just going out in the middle of the ocean and just figuring something out. It's incredibly hard. It's not super fun at the time, but I like going through that development process and just trying to learn something new and figure it out. I've seen videos of, Dave Kalama's done it. Tomo's done it. I've seen a few guys, I think Adam Bennett's even has done it recently. I've seen videos of people and it looks like, starting from your knees is easier because you can kind of hop and porpoise that board and generate that thrust through the board. And then it looks like they kind of paddle and get the wave right as it starts to lift, and then get on your feet really quick and start pumping the board. Because there's a point where even if you don't really have the board speed, as long as you can get that foil to engage, it'll lift you. And then it kind of like will spit you down into the wave. But I really don't know. It's just kind of watching a couple videos from some guys and just what does it look like they're doing? They might be doing something totally different, and I have no clue what I'm about to get into. But definitely sizing up the foils, going with something big. It's going to be slow. It's going to have a low takeoff speed. I think that's going to be important. But yeah, really, we're just going to go figure it out, see how it
Okay.
goes. I'm ready to just paddle for 8 miles and not even get off the water. That's kind of the bar that I've set for myself going into it. So any molecule of success we get is a win.
Obviously, going out with what, 3, 4, 5 people, or what's
Yeah,
your
we'll
crew
go
size
with,
normally?
yeah, I mean, I don't really want to go by myself, but it's also something that if I go with a buddy and they get up, like they're not waiting for me. They're going, they're gone.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's
you're
true.
gonna, if one person gets up and the other doesn't, you're gonna be on your own eventually, you know? So I don't know, just being comfortable with that, being prepped for it, being trained for it, I think is kind of what's going to make it successful or not.
Okay, exciting. Well, hey, let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I will
Yeah.
for sure.
Are you still with doing some stuff with Ben for on
Yeah.
kiteboarding?
Yeah, so on they just launched their new wings, the new flash wings. He's got some new materials, like some crazy laminate stuff in the leading edge and the canopies. Um, Pretty cool wing. You know, it's cool to see the to go from the first gen into the second gen, just the improvements, the development. Really, it seems like materials is the leading way as far as like brands trying to be on the cutting edge for wing development. Obviously, you know, Ozone has their thing with the ram air design and the double skin wing. Like that's cool. There's a lot of, you know, opportunity with that. But as far as sticking with what we would call a traditional wing design, yeah, I think moving towards lighter materials, they kind of give you a little more performance. They're a little more fun to ride. You're not having to hold as much weight in your hands, especially in wave riding. You know, when you're riding waves, like having a wing that just kind of disappears and is ultra light is awesome. It just feels like a huge performance gain. So it's really nice to see, you know, companies and, you know, like Ben, he's taking that leap of faith into new materials, trying new things, not afraid to prototype something different. So that's, you know, I think that's just a really cool idea to see.
Yeah, I haven't ridden them yet, but I rode his first gen of that one. And I was actually riding Noah V2s this winter in La Ventana, like a 3-meter V2. And I know they're a bit older, but man, I love them. It was amazing. Like that little pocket handle right at the start.
Yep.
Like I would just ride bumps and stuff all the way down and mini downwind. Like every time I needed some power, I'd grit the wing is what I meant. But super fun wing though. Unbelievable. Like I was impressed.
I love that wing, and that's still like one of my go-to choices if I want to like boost or do freestyle, or if it's light and I just really need that incredible low end to pull me up out of the water. Then Noah V2 is still like one of my go-to choices. It definitely has better low end than the Flash design. The Flash wing is a little more like refined in its power delivery. Is kind of how I describe it. It's not as grunty. It's not like that, you know, wakeboard boat where you just get this crazy low end that just pulls. The Flash wing definitely feels like it works towards like the higher end of the pull spectrum in a sense, where like the pull is really consistent and defined, but it doesn't have that crazy low end that the Noah does. Pros and cons, right? The Flash wing I think rides a little better in the waves because it seems to flag and balance a little better, where the Noah has that really good low end, so it's really nice for boosting and freestyle tricks. Or if it's light and you want to ride as small a wing as you can, having that low end is important. And also because I'm riding really small boards. You know, I'm riding seeker boards. So not having that good low end makes it hard to just get the board to clear the surface of the water. Where if you're on something a little bit larger, like a mid-length or something where your knee's starting, where your board doesn't really need to clear the water, that's where you kind of don't need all that low end anymore. And it's almost a benefit to not have it just because it's kind of wasted power range in a sense.
Okay. Yeah, I can ride that thing in, I'm thinking 16 or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was quite impressed. And then I didn't like the handle positioning. So the first handle and the last handle are obviously the easiest based on what you want to do. But even the Y handles, to be honest, were nice to get back up wind. So I had a blast with that thing. So that's cool. All right. And then, so brand new materials, obviously on the new one from Ben, and higher pressure as well.
Yeah, so with the, you know, this new material, it wants to run a higher pressure. So you pump it like actually pretty noticeably harder, like a few PSI harder than Dacron or whatever the normal material is. But what it also does is it lets you run a little smaller strut. So you get a little more efficient air profile and a little more efficient frame, being able to stiffen everything up, run those higher pressures. You don't need as much diameter to get the same stiffness. So it's really cool. You have this new material. It has better performance. You can run a lot higher pressure through it. And then your wing in turn can be thinner, lighter, faster. So you kind of just get gains everywhere through it.
Oh, sick. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing so I think I'm going to go see him in Montreal there in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
I'm going to pick up some new wings for this winter. So I think it'll be pretty fun to test it out, pump it out outside or something. But how's your toe foiling progressing? Like, I know we were talking about that last time. So you've had an extra season at it. Like, what kind of stuff are you now surfing in compared to what you were doing last year?
Kind of similar stuff. Our winter last year was actually not super great as far as winters go. We didn't have a lot of big swells. We had a lot of, small stuff. But for some reason it just didn't really give this year. We had a few good swells for sure, but it wasn't, the year prior. Gosh, I think we had so many days of just good, big, solid waves. And then this year we had like a few stretches that were just like waist high and that's it. So kind of give you an idea. Last year I ran about 200 hours on my jet ski. This year I ran like 50.
Okay.
So
a little different.
Yeah. So it was very different. But it was also fun because it kind of forced me to learn and explore different avenues in my foiling. I spent a lot more time paddling than I did the year before. Trying different foils, stuff that was, more in that like waist to chest high wave range that normally, if it's like that, like I'll just take the rest day or, I'll go wait for better waves to come. But after not being in the water for a few days, you're like going crazy. Like I'll take anything. So it kind of forced me into that, which was good. It definitely opened up my foiling a lot more. It kind of helped me build on some of those foundational things that you just need to constantly work and improve on. So I'm excited to see this winter kind of what it turns into and what we can do. But
sick.
Praying for waves, it's a condition dependent sport, right? There's only so much you can do. So we just, whatever we get is we're going to make the best of.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And how are your pups? They're doing good?
Oh, they're so good. Yeah. They're, now they're 3.5 and 3, I think. But yeah, they're just, they hold down the fort. They love going to the beach and swimming. And yeah, they're good.
Nice. Where do you take them swimming there?
We usually just go down to like Kanoha, one of the beaches. Okay. It's kind of by the airport there, and we'll just go swim them early in the morning. Try to go out before like all the wind and the kiters and the wingers show up. It's just, I don't know, like not everyone loves your dogs the same way you do. So I try to like take them when it's not super busy, where I can let them just go run up and down the beach and let them, wear themselves out and not have to like worry about them going, because they love people. They're golden retrievers, right? They always want to see what you're into. What do you have to eat? What snacks do you have? They'll take this gross wet tennis ball and throw it at you, like, and not think anything's wrong with that. And I love it, but not everyone does. So trying to just take them early in the morning when the beach is a little wider open and you don't have to like worry about someone getting upset or whatever. It's nice to just let the dogs go be dogs, let them go swim in the ocean, run up and down the beach, roll around and have fun. And then, take them home and get all washed off.
Yeah, the washed off part. Yeah, for sure. A lot of hair in those things.
It's a never ending task.
Nice, man. Well, hey, what's planning for the rest of your day?
Probably go downwinding. The wind's a little north today. I've been looking at it all morning. So I think we're probably going to go down to Kihei side and send a South Shore run.
Sick.
That's a super fun run. It's very different than the North Shore, than Maliko. The bumps are a lot steeper, a lot more compressed. So it's basically like surfing for 9 miles. The lines we're drawing and the turns we're doing is, I'm going to take a more surf geared foil, not running like anything race set up. Like I'm going to turn, get the tips out, bang the tips, and like just send really hard turns for 9 miles. So it's a really fun run.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, hey, I hope that goes well.
Yeah,
and,
I do too.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Always good to catch up.
Well, we'll have to have you back on maybe next year. Yeah. And let us know where you're at there.
Perfect.
How, I guess, to finish off, like what's the biggest toe in then that you've done so far? Like
wave size?
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I mean,
Probably
for me,
65 feet. I saw
it was at least 100 feet. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's all we need to know.
Oh, it was at least 100 feet, maybe even bigger. You know, no cameras were out, but I tell you, when I was riding that wave, it was huge. And then when I fell, it got even bigger. You have no idea. I don't know. I think maybe like in the 25, 30 foot range, realistically.
Shit, that big. Eh?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't gotten on any like proper monsters yet.
That's monster
I feel
enough.
like you hit a point where like you need like really specialized equipment to do it, and that specialized equipment, like people just don't generally want to build it because it's really expensive. It's very time consuming and has an absolute zero market. You know, there's really nothing to be gained from it. So I'm like approaching the point where writing production or even kind of custom-ish stuff stops getting it done, and you need like more customized gear. At least I do. Like if you're a freak and you're just really, really good, you can make anything work, right? Where I need all the help I can get to kind of meet those goals. But yeah, I mean, I feel like even anything up to like 30-ish feet, you can still go really freaking fast and get on the gnarly wave, and like you're definitely got the pucker factor going on when that thing blows up behind you. Like it's still no joke. But I feel like that's probably the biggest that I've really gotten so far. Obviously, my goal is I want to keep pushing and riding bigger waves and, going faster, higher and all that. But there gets to a point where it also becomes just, you got to put in a lot, time, money, effort to gain just a little bit. And you kind of almost get diminishing returns. But I don't know, there's a whole bunch of new gear that hasn't been launched yet that's kind of in the pipeline right now that I'm waiting to get. So that could totally change the scope for, what I'm able to do and what we're able to push. Or, what we can take and modify from that existing production gear to kind of, reach into new limits. Just in the last year, you look at foil development, like we're still taking massive leaps as far as speed, efficiency, range, and what we can get out of these foils. Yeah, it's slowing down a little bit, but we're still just making huge strides. And so I think that, those artificial thresholds or whatever that I'm reaching, it's only a matter of time and just development where the bar moves again.
Yeah, I can't. I'm looking forward to seeing the gear at AWSI in Hood this September and seeing what new little things are coming out or will come out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to be super sweet. Well, Hey, bud, thanks, man. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah, man.
Have fun today.
You too.
And looking forward to having you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll talk to you.